Hey everyone! So when I decided to move into my tiny trailer, one thing I didn't realize is that I was going to become a part of a community of all kinds of people who live tiny. When I was first moving onto the road, John Kernahan of United Tiny Houses reached out to me and he asked me if I'd be willing to speak at a tiny house festival. A what? A tiny house festival? Yep, these things happen all over the country all year long, and they're full of the most amazing people living in all kinds of tiny houses, from RVs to school buses to actual tiny houses. But one thing we all have in common is that we share the similar philosophy of simplifying our life and living tiny. But last November, I attended a tiny house festival in Florida. While I was there, I was able to ask both people who were living tiny and builders of tiny houses the same question. What is the most important thing to consider for anyone wanting to go tiny? And here are their answers.
The most important thing to look for is how the house is constructed, what type of materials they use, what type of trailer they use.
So you got to make sure and have multi-purpose furniture in your home so that you don't just have a table that's always sticking out or a couch that's getting into your traffic pattern. Everything has to be able to be put away so you have a nice open space so you can feel relaxed when you're at home, pull it out when you need it, put it away when you don't.
Something to always keep in mind is to consider if you're moving your house a lot or keeping it permanent. If you're moving it, you got to make sure all your furniture is strapped to the house. Otherwise, each time you want to get up and go, it's going to be a whole lot of work.
When you're going tiny, it's really important to make sure that you think about where you're putting your money. Since the tiny home is so tiny, you really want to make sure that you maximize each space that's most important to you. So if your kitchen's really important, make sure that you just put most of your money into that. Or if your bathroom's really important, put your money there and make sure that you don't go over budget.
When you're going tiny, consider the environment that you're going to be parking in. If you're going to go with bad insulation, you're going to get a little bit more airflow throughout the house than, say, spray foam insulation.
Hey, I think one thing people should really think about is safety. Make sure your house is certified to be lived in year-round, like ours is with NOAA or Builtsworth.
Consider pre-planning. You have to know where every single outlet is going to go, where your fridge is going to go, if you're doing gas, where the gas is going to go, because you can't move things an inch, 2 inches, or 4 inches when this thing is completed.
The main thing I think you need to look at is your heights, weights, and dimensions. Just make sure you're under your 13.6 because you can't get around. And your width, 8 foot is our max we can go, but we've seen a few guys who do it on their own and then screw up and then find out, and they gotta pull it apart and do it over again.
I believe the most important thing is to have a house that you can actually live in. Closet space is very important. All the essentials of home, a dishwasher, washer, dryer, and plenty of headroom where you're not crawling around.
Before you even start building or thinking about any kind of design, check with some kind of local county who's going to do the inspections, where you can and can't put it, because there's a lot of trouble to go to if the county you want to live it in doesn't want that thing there. So
one of the main things you should consider when you're looking for a tiny home is how much time you're going to spend in it and what you're looking for during that time. I believe the open concepts make it feel open and airy, and it makes it feel like a home.
Look at your day-to-day life and see how many things you use and then try and incorporate those. If you cook a lot, get a big kitchen. If you don't, get a small kitchen that'll leave room for other things.
Moving to a smaller space is what a lot of people do, is becoming open-minded and being available to sacrificing some things and embracing newer, littler things.
Make sure in your tiny house you're going to include the things that really are important to you and really do make you comfortable. Like for me, I want to have a nice chair. I want to have one that I can lean back and get my feet up on. I'm not okay with sitting on just a big couch or on a bed. I want to have that chair. So find the thing that's your chair, the thing that you need to have in your house to make you feel at home and comfortable for the rest of your life.
People should always check references, no matter how well known a builder or how cute the pictures of their houses are. Check references from past customers.
The foundation, the trailer, make sure you get it from a reputable dealer that knows what they're doing, and just like getting a builder, get references.
I think the first thing you need to consider is, are you really going to move it, and how much? Because that has a lot to do with how your build's going to go.
How much room and how much space do you actually need? Do you need 11 feet worth of headroom? Do you need a large loft upstairs? How much space do you actually need in your house?
To me, when buying a new camper, the biggest thing is ease of setup. There's too many people that get too big of a thing with too many elaborate stuff. Make it easy and simple so you'll want to get out and experience nature.
I think the most important thing is whatever you're doing, does it make you smile every single time you look at it? In my situation, if it's important to be the brightest color in the room, be the brightest color.
I think that ultimately you just need to decide what you want to do with your home. If you want to be mobile all the time, then you're going to want something smaller and easier to move. If you have somewhere to be stationary, then you can have a little bit more square footage if you like.
Everything that you have and everything you own, pick it up and ask yourself, does this make me happy? Does it bring love into my life? And if it doesn't, you don't need it, because there's not enough space.
My advice to anyone thinking about living tiny, especially if you're thinking about living tiny with another person, is to make sure that you're really comfortable with them. We're living in our bus while it's still a construction zone, and we don't have walls yet. We like to tell people, couples who poop together, stay together.
So my advice would be, if you're going to especially go with a schoolie, that you get it from a bus depot that has recently retired the bus from school service, because they've been used as school buses to bring children around, and therefore they've been serviced very well.
Essentially, going tiny doesn't mean you have to get rid of everything. Going tiny just means you maximize the things that are most important to you. So for me, I really enjoy community, so my bus represents that, and I built that into it. So if you're really into records, you don't have to get rid of your records. You can keep them. All you got to do is just find ways to maximize that within your tiny space.
A piece of advice, which I actually got from my husband, is to just go ahead and jump in and do it. I was a very plan it or else it's not going to happen mindset, and he's very jump in and do it. We took the cash that we had, we jumped in, we started, and we just let the build happen by itself.
Before you go tiny, you need to know your why. Why are you going tiny? You need to know that, because there might be times along the way that you might second guess your decision to live tiny, because living tiny is not easy, but it's so worth it. And having your why will be there in your back pocket, so you can go back and check it and remind yourself of why you're doing this, because it'll be the best decision you ever make.
If I had one piece of advice to add to that, I would say first, define the life that is going to make you happy. And then figure out the home that is going to enable you to live that life. Whatever that is, you need to have your happiness be number one, and your home should do nothing but make you happy. Here's to taking the giant leap to tiny living. Love and light. That's it.